Lots of wind yesterday, lots of rain today. It's actually pretty cold too. They said we would potentially get snow already. Can you believe it? And what's going on today? I thought this was kind of interesting where apparently there was a court case where the decision was reversed in terms of, I guess, media using a drone to document a situation. It was kind of interesting. This one says, Fifth Circuit rejects media group's challenge of Texas drone regulations. I heard this before where there was an argument on how flying the drone is no different than, let's just say, I guess free speech in a way to document a situation, talk about it and so forth. It says, in a loss of Texas journalists, a Fifth Circuit panel on Monday ruled a state law restricting use of drones does not violate the First Amendment. While flying his drone over a San Marcos, Texas apartment complex where several people had died from an arson fire in July 2018, San Antonio Express News multimedia reporter Bill Cazada was approached by a federal agent. The agent told him he was interfering with a federal investigation and called San Marcos police. An officer told Calzada he was violating Chapter 423 of the Texas Government Code and could be charged with the misdemeanors with penalties of up to 180 days in jail and $10,000 fine if he continued to use his drone to report on the fire or if he published any of the photos or footage he had taken with it. She did not ticket Calzada, but the National Press Photographers Association and Texas Press Association, of which Calzada and the Express News are members, challenged the drone regulations in a federal lawsuit in September 2019, claiming the laws chilled speech and were vague and overbroad, thereby infringing on the group's members' First and 14th Amendment rights. That's kind of interesting too, where they're saying if the person publishes any images and so forth, because what would happen if someone took it with a telephoto lens as an example from a distance in a building? Would it actually be the same thing? That's what I'm wondering anyways. And there's more, saying passed by the state legislature in 2013 and amended 3 times before the plaintiffs filed suit, the regulations criminalize using unmanned aerial drones to film private individuals and property without consent, as well as flying drones within 400 feet over critical infrastructure such as prisons, oil and gas drill sites, and large sport venues. A person who was photographed or filmed on their private property can also sue the drone operators for civil penalties of $5,000 to $10,000 per violation. That's a lot of restrictions when you think about it, and because of that, I guess some news reporters, they stopped using drones because the companies say they're not going to pay for their, legal bills and stuff like that if they get in trouble. So at first, it sounded like they were successful because it says U.S. Circuit Judge Don Willett, writing for the unanimous panel, said the plaintiffs claim a sweeping First Amendment right to use unmanned aerial drones to film private individuals and property without their consent and to fly drones at low altitudes over critical infrastructure. But he said nothing in the original understandings of the First Amendment nor within Fifth Circuit precedent endorses their claims. In fact, nothing in the Constitution permits an individual to film his neighbors in the privacy of her own home stealthily from the air for the purpose of conducting, quote, surveillance. Under plaintiff's novel theory of the First Amendment laws prohibiting stalking and even voyeurism would fall in the name of free speech, added Willett. I guess that's the interesting thing to think about, because if you're a reporter in that case and they say they're just flying, for example, really low from the structures and all that because all they want to do is document the situation, is that the same thing as, let's just say, quote, spying on someone? Again, what is the difference if someone's standing far away with a telephoto lens and all that, with a camera? Would that be the same thing? So that's kind of, I guess, the tricky part if you're trying to judge this in an unbiased way, because I would think in those cases it would be okay, correct? Or is it completely different down there in terms of the rules? Because the argument here is saying, quote, the very same aerial image can be unlawfully captured using a drone, but lawfully captured using a helicopter, a tall ladder, a high building, or even a really big trampoline, he wrote, noting that Chapter 423 also permits using drones to take images of private property as long as the machine is below 8 feet. I mean, if that's the case too, again, how does that make sense? You can fly a helicopter, capture things with your, I guess, again, high-powered cameras and all that, yet here you can't use the drone? To me, that seems like it's extremely biased and extremely prejudiced against the drone operator, isn't it? But either way, I guess it's a loss for people who are using it to document situations and all that. It sounds crazy to me personally. What would people think about that? Because in terms of things like safety, if that's the case anyways, how about this story where I would think you should focus on stuff like this in terms of safety. Apparently, there was some guy, a pilot, who tried to intentionally crash a plane full of passengers for whatever reason. And it says here, Alaska Airlines pilot hailed as a family man and fantastic father after being charged with 83 counts of attempted murder. How's that? An off-duty Alaska Airlines pilot accused of trying to crash a plane with 84 people on board is being hailed as a caring family man by shocked neighbors who live in close proximity to the suspect. Joseph David Emerson, 44, was charged with 83 counts of attempted murder and received an additional 83 counts of reckless endangerment and 1 count of endangering an aircraft, police documents showed, after he allegedly tried to shut off the engines by pulling the fire extinguisher handles on a packed flight from Everett, Washington to San Francisco, California on Sunday. What is going on there, huh? It reminds me again, whenever you read these stories, of course, like friends and families would say, this person was so nice and all that, but I would be inclined to say, nobody just snaps just like that, do they? They must have been building up for whatever reason. So what potentially happened? Maybe he was under the influence, like these other ones say. Pilot who allegedly tried to shut off engines hadn't slept in 40 hours. He also allegedly discussed using psychedelic mushrooms, the complaint said. And it says, in a stunning new details emerged Tuesday in the terrifying incident aboard an Alaska Airlines plane where an off-duty pilot is accused of trying to shut down the engines mid-flight. So according to the report, it says, Emerson allegedly told officers he believed he was having a, quote, nervous breakdown, the complaint said. According to the complaint, he allegedly said, I pulled both emergency shut-off handles because I thought I was dreaming and I just want to wake up. Emerson also stated he became depressed about 6 months ago, according to the complaint. The FBI is investigating when exactly he allegedly took the mushrooms, according to a source familiar with the investigation. They're trying to figure out whether this was a psychedelic trip, a mental health crisis, or something else, the source said. Can you imagine that too? If you were on this plane, how terrified would you be? Especially the people who were actually flying the plane. Apparently, I guess as evident, he was subdued and all that, fortunately, but that's crazy, huh? Well, the rain's not stopping for sure today, just by the looks of it. What to test for the archive today? Alright, see you guys later.